I read 11 books in 2025, which honestly is not that much, but I had such a good reading year. I wanted to share with you guys my top 3 favorite books of 2025. Starting with Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle. This book was everything I wanted and more. Basically about 2 sisters who are the remaining family members of a very large, very wealthy family in a very small town. We follow Constance and Maricat as they have been kind of forced to live secluded into this big house, and we follow sort of what happens when their cousin Charles comes to visit them and tries to take over everything that they have. I love how Shirley Jackson wrote these characters. I was not really vibing with Maricat at the beginning of this story, but towards the end, I ended up really liking her and really appreciating her, and my heart feels for Constance. My favorite character was Constance. Next up, we have Stoner by John Williams. Please read this book as a cautionary tale on how you should not live your life. This book follows a farm boy turned literature professor named William Stoner as he navigates his marriage, career, life, failure, and overall just discontent with the life and the choices he has made. I love the journey of reading a story that takes place at the beginning and end of someone's life. This book was so well written, and it taught me a very big lesson, which is that it is never too late for you to change your mind and live the life that you actually want. Because if you don't, you're gonna end up like this guy. The best book that I read in 2025 was Hangan's Vegetarian. I think this is the best book that I have ever read. I think this is the most interesting book that I have ever read. This is the one book that I read this year that has stayed with me the longest. I read this back in the spring, and I am still thinking about Younghae and everything that happened to her and all the ways that her family failed her. In this book, we follow a woman who decides to stop eating meat, and we see how that affects the life of her husband, her brother-in-law, and her sister. We actually never get to hear from the narrator, and we only get to see the way that she gains agency through the eyes of her husband, her brother-in-law, and her sister. This book has absolutely nothing to do with how to stop eating meat. More than anything is what happens when someone with no agency all of a sudden decides to get some. This book has a very interesting exploration on desire and honestly violence. The brother-in-law's POV, which is the second part of this book, is probably the wildest story that I have ever read, and I recommend this book to everyone who